Las Vegas Raiders right tackle Brandon Parker is not on injured reserve. There have been reports today and rumors on the internet saying that he has been placed on injured reserve, but Vincent Bosingor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal is saying here that that is not accurate. He has not been placed on IR. Now, maybe he'll be placed in the future. You hear rumors about perhaps he had a torn bicep, but we don't really know where this is coming from, and it's interesting that no beat reporter or even somebody like Ian Rappaport has talked about this. So we know Brandon Parker was not at practice today. Perhaps there is an injury. The question is it a severe injury? Is it an injury that means he'll be placed on the injured reserve list and open up a roster spot for the Las Vegas Raiders? Now, we don't know right now if that is the case. That may change in the future, but with Vincent Bosingor sticking his neck out here and saying that that's not accurate, I think perhaps maybe he knows something that people don't. Maybe he knows that the injury that Brandon Parker does have right now is not that severe, and then that would mean perhaps he is out for maybe a month or a short amount of time. And there's also this new thing with the NFL where if you are placed on injured reserve, you're not always automatically done for the year. There's still a window of opportunity to return. So all these questions have to be answered, and they're not answered yet. And I actually do think it's a little insensitive to go ahead and, spout these rumors about Brandon Parker when it's not for sure at all, or not even officially announced by the team. What's happening right now in training camp and preseason before week 1 of the regular season is the Raiders and no NFL team has to disclose the injury status of their players until they are actually placed on IR. So when he is placed on injured reserve, the whole world will know it, and the Raiders will have to make an announcement according to the rules. But till then, we just know that there's an injury. We just know he's not participating, and time will tell who's correct. But Vincent Bosingor, interesting to see this beat reporter stick his neck out and say that these reports today are not accurate. So we'll see what happens. There is a need for Brandon Parker on this team, despite what people say. I don't believe Darrell Williams is any kind of solution. Keep in mind, Darrell Williams on the Bills was moved to guard, and he was released because his price was not worth that of a guard. If he was playing tackle, they believe he would have kept him, but they found an upgrade. So I don't think, this guy is going to be much of an upgrade. Brandon Parker still provides great depth for the Raiders, especially if the Raiders intend to start Alex Leatherwood at right tackle and obviously Colton Miller at left tackle. The fact that he is a swing tackle, and obviously, as we saw at preseason, not the greatest at left tackle, still a good insurance policy for the Raiders to have. So I hope Brandon Parker's okay. Well, the Raiders have actually started to work out Danny Shelton, former nose tackle, played with the Detroit Lions last year, spent some time with the New England Patriots in 2019 and in 2018. So he does have a connection with Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels and probably fits Patrick Graham's scheme pretty well. And he was a first-round pick selected by the Cleveland Browns before eventually being traded to New England. This guy, when you look at his tape, I was watching a little bit of him a little earlier. He has really quick get off. That's something that's really interesting about him. Really quick get off and really able to have some success as a pass rusher for a nose tackle, which you don't see that often. There are times when you watch Danny Shelton with New England, there's times where they had him out there as an interior defensive lineman, even when they're in the nickel. And you don't see that a lot of times. In 2019, had a 73.5 pass rushing grade, really great stuff, and also had 18 pressures along with 3 sacks for Danny Shelton. But he was on the Lions last year. When you're on the Lions, things aren't going to always be amazing, but expect him to definitely compete in that sort of zero-tech role for the 3-4 base defense. I think that is the role that they want to have Danny Shelton try to fulfill. They're working him out. Not signed yet, but they are working him out. And perhaps maybe Jonathan Hankins. Yes, he is expected to come back off the PUP list pretty soon, but he's missed some time. And maybe the Raiders are kind of worried about it and want to have some type of insurance policy. And if you already have a guy who you have a connection to, Danny Shelton, then what's really better than that? So this is what we have going on with the Raiders. It seems like the skill positions are really solidified. The only problem happening right now in terms of the skill positions are the fact that Anthony Averett and Rock Ya-Sin have been missing for a little bit. Darren Waller, yes, maybe we can hopefully get an extension soon, but he's also been missing. But outside of that, all the skill positions look really set and they look really solid. And the offensive line seems to be sort of forming in a way where you're able to figure out the depth chart. I think we're going to learn a lot in this Minnesota Vikings game. And hey, make sure you check us out tomorrow In the daytime, 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be talking about the latest Las Vegas Raiders news live. We want to hear from you in the chat. Go ahead, hang out in the chat. Hey, talk some shit to me and disagree with me. I like that too as well. 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, we will be going live tomorrow, and also we'll be going live during the game on Sunday. So the Raiders still have Neil Farrell Jr. at nose tackle, so he is somebody who also could be in this sort of competition. When you look at the nose tackle room for the Raiders right now, it really is, if Danny Shelton signed, I'm going to leave him out of the mix right now. Neil Farrell Jr., the rookie from LSU. Then you have Jonathan Hankins, who's coming off the PUP list but still missed some time. Then you also have Vernon Butler, who did have a few snaps last game, had a decent performance but still played very later on, to be completely honest, which means that he's probably lower on the depth chart. If somebody's playing a little later on in preseason, probably a little lower. So all these guys, Butler, Farrell Jr., and then Jonathan Hankins, and then maybe Danny Shelton. That's what's interesting about the Raiders is, yes, there are some positions that are solidified. You know, we have our edge rusher solidified. We have, our starting 2 wide receivers solidified, quarterback, middle linebacker, in my opinion, with Denzel Perryman. But there is still the positions where there isn't a complete number 1 player. I feel like this team has tons of depth. Even safety, like Trayvon Merring is the number 1 free safety for sure, but you also still have Duran Harmon as insurance policy. Jonathan Abram will probably start at strong safety, but Duran Harmon and Roderick Team are there to provide some depth as well. And I just feel like on all the positions that are undecided, we do have decent depth. So I really do hope the Raiders do sign Danny Shelton, because I feel like Neil Farrell Jr., just being a rookie, probably not ready to start in case Hankins isn't up to par. And then it's Andrew Billings as well. I'm sorry, I almost missed on Andrew Billings, also involved in this nose tackle position battle. And the thing about Andrew Billings, he was signed before free agency really opened, and that's because he was just on a practice squad last year. So what that means is not highly desired on the market. Okay, now we could say, maybe Dave Ziegler's finding diamonds in the rough, whatever. But when you're getting signed before free agency even opens, that's usually not a good sign. So Andrew Billings did sort of roll with the first-ish, second-ish team, only played a few snaps in this past preseason game, so he would be the highest on the depth chart with an absent Jonathan Hankins. But the Raiders clearly feel like there's a need here at nose tackle, and it's good to see they're addressing this. Hey, like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to the Raiders Rundown for more Raiders content. We will always confirm it and make sure it's legit before we report it and tell you exactly what's going on and where it's coming from. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.